Chapter 1. *** Title: Jody and her marvelous motorbike adventure. In a small, bustling town nestled between rolling hills and sparkling rivers, there lived a young girl named Jody. Jody was bright and full of energy, with curly hair that bounced as she walked and a smile that could light up the darkest day. But what made Jody truly special was her incredible motorbike. It wasn't just any motorbike. It was a shiny, red one with a magical engine that purred like a kitten when it started. Jody named it Wizzy. Every morning, Jody and Wizzy would zoom through the town, waving to friends and neighbors. The baker, Mr. Poppyseed, always gave Jody a warm cinnamon roll for breakfast, and Mrs. Bloom, the florist, handed her a fresh daisy to brighten her day. One sunny Saturday, Jody decided to go on an adventure beyond the town's edge. She packed a small bag with sandwiches, apples, and her favorite book, then hopped on Wizzy. The engine roared to life, and off they went. As Jody and Wizzy zipped down the road, they passed by green fields filled with singing crickets, crossed a wooden bridge over a babbling brook, and entered a magical forest. The trees were tall and ancient, their leaves whispering secrets as the wind blew through them. Suddenly, Wizzy's engine began to sputter. Oh no! Jody exclaimed, as they came to a stop. She hopped off and looked around. They were deep in the forest, with no one else in sight. Just then, a tiny, glittering fairy appeared. She had sparkly wings and a dress made of shimmering leaves. Hello, Jody. The fairy said with a twinkle in her eye. I am Twinkle, the forest fairy. I heard Wizzy having some trouble. Can I help? Jody smiled and nodded. Yes, please. I don't know what's wrong. Twinkle flew around Wizzy, sprinkling a little bit of fairy dust here and there. Ah, I see. She said, landing softly on Wizzy's handlebars. Your motorbike is special, Jody, because it runs on kindness. You've used so much kindness, sharing smiles and helping others, but Wizzy needs a little more today. Jody thought for a moment. She had always been taught to be kind, and it made her happy to see others smile. But how could she fill Wizzy with kindness? Then, Jody remembered the bag of treats she brought. She took out a sandwich, an apple, and her book. Would you like to share these with me, Twinkle? Jody asked. Twinkle clapped her hands. That's perfect. Sharing is a wonderful act of kindness. As they enjoyed their picnic together, Jody and Twinkle laughed and talked about their favorite adventures. Jody even read a chapter from her book to Twinkle, who listened with delight. When they finished, something magical happened. Wizzy's engine roared back to life, stronger than ever. It hummed and glowed with a warm light, filled with the power of Jody's kindness. Thank you, Twinkle. Jody said, hugging the fairy. I'm so glad we shared this adventure. Remember, Jody. Twinkle said, as she fluttered her wings. Kindness is the greatest magic of all. It can brighten the darkest days and fix the trickiest problems. With a wave goodbye, Jody hopped on Wizzy, and they zoomed Out of the forest, they rode back home, past the fields and over the bridge, feeling happier than ever. From that day on, Jody and Wizzy continued to spread kindness wherever they went. They visited friends, helped neighbors, and shared their adventures, always remembering that the best fuel for a marvelous motorbike and life is a heart full of kindness. And Sir Jody and Wizzy's adventures continued, each one filled with laughter, joy, and the magic of kindness. And wherever they went, they left a trail of smiles and happy hearts. Dash dash dash. Hash 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 asterisk. The end of chapter 1. Remember, like Jody, we can all make the world a better place with a little kindness. Who knows what magical adventures await when we do? Chapter 2. Hash 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 asterisk. Title: Jody and Wizzy's Journey to the Friendly Farm. Dash dash dash. One bright morning, Jody woke up with a big smile on her face. It was summer vacation, and she had an exciting plan for the day. She was going to visit her friend Sam's friendly farm. Jody loved animals, and Sam had told her all about the adorable creatures that lived on the farm. Jody packed her backpack with a water bottle, a snack, and a little bag of oats for the animals. She put on her favorite blue helmet and hopped on Wizzy, her magical red motorbike. And quat. Ready for another adventure, Wizzy? And quat? Jody asked. Wizzy revved its engine in response. Ready to go. As they rode through town, Jody waved to all her friends. She passed by the bakery, where Mr. Poppyseed was setting out freshly baked bread, and Mrs. Bloom's flower shop, where the air smelled sweet with the scent of roses. Soon, they left the town behind and followed a winding path through a meadow full of wildflowers. The sun shone brightly, and butterflies danced around them. Jody felt the wind in her hair and smiled with joy. After a little while, they reached a big wooden gate with a sign that read and quat, Friendly Farm. And quat. Jody hopped off Wizzy and pushed open the gate. There, waiting for her, was Sam, waving excitedly. And quat. Hi, Jody. Hi, Wizzy. And quat. Sam called. And quat. Welcome to Friendly Farm. And quat. Jody grinned. And quat. Hi, Sam. I can't wait to meet all the animals. And quat. Sam led Jody and Wizzy into the farmyard. It was bustling with activity. Chickens clucked and scratched at the ground, goats bleated happily, and a big, fluffy sheepdog named Max barked a friendly greeting. And quat. First, let's meet the chickens. And quat. Sam said, guiding Jody to a cozy co-op. Inside were hens and a proud rooster. Jody sprinkled some oats on the ground, and the chickens pecked at them cheerfully. Next, they visited the goat pen. The goats were curious and playful. One little goat, named Nibbles, tried to nibble on Jody's shoelaces, making her giggle. As they walked around the farm, Jody noticed a shy little lamb hiding behind a hay bale. And quat. Who's this? And quat. She asked. And quat. That's Lulu. And quat. Sam said. And quat. She's a bit shy around new people, but she's very sweet. And quat. Jody crouched down and held out her hand. She spoke softly. And quat. Hi, Lulu. It's nice to meet you. And quat. Slowly, Lulu came closer and nuzzled Jody's hand. Jody smiled and gently stroked the lamb's soft wool. After visiting the animals, Sam and Jody sat down under a big oak tree to have their snacks. Jody shared her apple slices with Sam, and they talked about their favorite animals. Wizzy rested nearby, enjoying the peaceful farm sounds. Just then, Jody heard a faint meowing. She looked around and saw a tiny, fluffy kitten stuck in a bush. And "Quat! Oh no, Sam! Look! And Quat!" she exclaimed. They rushed over to the bush. The little kitten was tangled in the branches and meowing softly. Jody gently reached in and carefully freed the kitten. She cuddled it close, and the kitten purred happily. And "Quat! Thank you for saving her, Jody, and Quat," Sam said. And "Quat! This is Muffin. She must have wandered off." And "Quat!" Jody smiled and scratched Muffin behind her ears. And "Quat! It's okay, Muffin. You're safe now." And "Quat!" After a wonderful day at the farm, it was time for Jody and Wizzy to head home. Sam walked him to the gate. And "Quat! Thanks for visiting, Jody. Come back anytime." And "Quat!" And "Quat! I will. Thanks for showing me around." And "Quat!" Jody replied. She waved goodbye and hopped on Wizzy. As they rode home, Jody thought about all the fun she had. She felt happy, knowing she had made a new friend in Lulu and helped little Muffin. When they reached town, Jody and Wizzy slowed down to enjoy the beautiful evening. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange. Jody parked Wizzy in her driveway and patted its seat. And "Quat! Today was amazing, Wizzy. I can't wait for our next adventure." And "Quat!" Wizzy purred softly, as if to say, "And Quat! Me too." And "Quat!" And Sir Jody and Wizzy's summer was filled with wonderful adventures and kind deeds. Every day was a new journey, and with each ride, they discovered the magic of friendship and kindness. Dash dash dash. Hash 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 asterisk the end. Always remember, like Jody, a little kindness can brighten anyone's day. What adventures will you and your friends go on next? Chapter 3 hash 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 asterisk title. Jody and the mystery of the missing music. Dash dash dash. It was a warm, sunny day in Jody's small town, perfect for an adventure. Jody had been invited to a special event at the town square, a concert where local musicians played beautiful melodies. Jody loved music and was excited to hear all the different instruments. As usual, Jody hopped on Wizzy, her magical red motorbike, and sped off to the town square. The streets were lined with colorful banners, and people were setting up stalls, selling treats and crafts. Everything seemed perfect, except for one problem. There was no music. Jody parked Wizzy and looked around. She spotted the mayor, Mr. Jenkins, looking worried. And "Quat! What's wrong?" And "Quat!" Jody asked as she approached him. And "Quat! Oh, Jody, it's a disaster." And "Quat!" Mr. Jenkins exclaimed. And "Quat!" The musicians' instruments are missing. We can't have a concert without them. And "Quat!" Jody gasped. And "Quat!" Missing? How did that happen? And "Quat!" Mr. Jenkins shook his head. And "Quat!" We don't know. They were all set up this morning, but now they're gone. The musicians are searching everywhere. And "Quat!" Jody thought for a moment. She loved solving mysteries almost as much as she loved riding Wizzy. And "Quat!" Don't worry, Mr. Jenkins. Wizzy and I will help find the instruments. And "Quat!" With a determined look, Jody hopped on Wizzy and started searching. She rode through the town square, checking every nook and cranny. She asked shopkeepers, street performers, and even the local librarian, but no one had seen the missing instruments. Just as Jody was starting to feel a bit discouraged, she heard a faint sound, like a drumbeat, coming from the nearby park. She followed the sound until she reached the park's entrance, where she found a clue. A small silver trumpet mouthpiece lying on the ground. Jody picked it up and smiled. And quote, "This must belong to one of the musicians. Come on, Wizzy, let's follow the trail." Unquote. As they ventured deeper into the park, the drumbeat grew louder. Soon, Jody spotted a group of children playing with the instruments. They were tapping on the drums, blowing into trumpets, and strumming a guitar. Jody approached them gently and quote, "Hi, everyone. Are these your instruments?" Unquote. A little boy with a big smile nodded. And quote, "We found them near the big oak tree. They looked so fun. We thought we'd have a mini concert." Unquote. Jody laughed. And quote, "I'm glad you're having fun, but these instruments belong to the musicians in the town square. They need them for the concert." Unquote. The children looked surprised. And quote, "Oh no. We didn't know." Unquote. The little boy said. And quote, "We're sorry." Unquote. And quote, "It's okay." Unquote. Jody said kindly. And quote, "Let's gather them up and take them back. Maybe you can meet the musicians and even try playing a song with them." Unquote. The children's eyes lit up. And quote, "Really? That would be awesome." Unquote. With Jody leading the way, they carefully carried the instruments back to the town square. Mr. Jenkins and the musicians were overjoyed to see them. And quote, "Jody, you saved the day." Unquote. Mr. Jenkins exclaimed. And quote, "And thank you, kids, for helping bring him back." Unquote. The musicians quickly set up their instruments, and the concert began. The town square filled with the joyful sounds of music. The children, including the little boy who had played the drums, were invited to join the musicians for a special song. They played a simple tune, and the crowd clapped along, cheering for the impromptu band. Jody felt a warm glow in her heart. She loved seeing everyone so happy. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the square, Jody sat with Wizzy, tapping her foot to the music. After the concert, Mr. Jenkins approached Jody. And quote, "Thank you, Jody. You and Wizzy really saved the day. You have a talent for solving mysteries and spreading kindness." Unquote. Jody smiled. And quote, "It was fun. And I'm glad the instruments are back where they belong." Unquote. As the crowd dispersed, Jody and Wizzy headed home, waving goodbye to their friends. The town square quieted down, but the joy of the day's music lingered in the air. And so, Jody and Wizzy rode off into the evening, ready for their next adventure, knowing that with a little curiosity and kindness, they could solve any mystery that came their way. Dash dash dash. Hash 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 asterisk the end. Remember, like Jody, solving mysteries can be exciting, especially when it brings people together. What mysteries will you uncover with your friends? Chapter 4. Hash 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 asterisk title. Jody and the Secret Garden. Dash dash dash. One bright and sunny morning, Jody woke up with a sense of excitement. It was a perfect day for exploring. As she finished her breakfast, she noticed an old map sticking out of one of her books. She pulled it out and unfolded it on the table. The map showed her town, but with a curious twist. There was a part labeled "Unquote, the secret garden," unquote, that Jody had never noticed before. Intrigued, Jody grabbed her backpack, filled it with a water bottle, a notebook, and some snacks, and headed outside. Wizzy, her trusty red motorbike, was waiting. And quote, "Looks like we have a mystery to solve, Wizzy," and quote, Jody said, patting the handlebars. Wizzy's engine purred in agreement, and off they went. They followed the map through the town, past familiar places like the bakery and the park. The map led them to a path that Jody had never taken before. Hidden behind a row of tall hedges. She slowed down and looked around. The path was narrow and lined with wildflowers, leading deeper into a part of town she had never explored. As they ventured down the path, the air filled with the sweet scent of flowers and the chirping of birds. Jody felt a sense of adventure tingling in her toes. After a short ride, they arrived at an old iron gate. The gate was slightly ajar, and a sign above it read, "Unquote, the secret garden." Unquote. Jody's eyes widened in amazement. Unquote. "We found it, Wizzy." Unquote. She exclaimed. She carefully pushed the gate open and wheeled Wizzy inside. Inside the gate, Jody discovered a beautiful garden, unlike any she had ever seen. It was filled with all sorts of flowers, roses, daisies, tulips, and more, all in full bloom. There were trees with colorful fruit, a sparkling fountain in the center, and a cozy bench under a weeping willow tree. The garden felt magical, like it was out of a fairy tale. As Jody explored the garden, she noticed a small stone pathway that wound through the flowers. Curious, she followed it and soon came across a little wooden shed. The door was open, and inside, she found gardening tools, pots, and packets of seeds. Jody picked up one of the seed packets and read the label, unquote, "Mystery flower seeds." Unquote. She giggled. Unquote. "I wonder what these will grow into." Unquote. She decided to plant a few seeds in an empty flower bed near the fountain. She gently patted the soil and gave them a little water from a watering can she found in the shed. While Jody was busy planting, she heard a rustling sound behind her. She turned around and saw a small rabbit hopping out from behind a bush. The rabbit had soft, white fur and big, curious eyes. Unquote. "Hello there," unquote, Jody said softly. The rabbit hopped closer, seemingly unafraid. It twitched its nose and looked at Jody with a twinkle in its eyes, as if it knew a secret. Unquote. "Do you live here in the garden?" Unquote, Jody asked. The rabbit didn't answer. Of course, but it did something curious. It nudged a small, round stone with its nose. Underneath the stone, Jody found a tiny, old key. Jody picked up the key, her heart racing with excitement. Unquote. "I wonder what this unlocks," unquote, she mused. She looked around the garden and noticed a little door at the base of a large, old oak tree. The door was barely visible, covered in vines and moss. Jody approached the door and tried the key. It fit perfectly. With a gentle turn, the door creaked open, revealing a small, cozy room inside the tree. The room was filled with tiny, delicate furniture, and in the middle of the room was a miniature tea set. It looked like a place where fairies might gather for tea. Jody smiled with delight. And quote, "This garden really is magical," unquote. She whispered. She looked back at the rabbit, who seemed to nod in agreement before hopping off into the flowers. After spending a few more magical hours exploring the garden, Jody knew it was time to head back. She closed the little door in the oak tree, locked it with the tiny key, and placed the key back under the stone. She whispered a thank you to the garden and to the friendly rabbit who had helped her discover its secrets. Jody hopped on Wizzy and took one last look at the beautiful flowers and the sparkling fountain. And quote, "We'll come back and visit again," and quote, she promised. Then, with a wave goodbye, she and Wizzy rode back through the gate and down the secret path. As they made their way home, Jody felt happy and content. She had discovered a magical place and had an adventure she would never forget. She couldn't wait to tell her friends about the secret garden and maybe even bring them along next time. And so, Jody and Wizzy continued their journey home, the sun setting behind them, casting a golden glow over the town. Jody knew that wherever their adventures took them, there would always be new wonders to discover and mysteries to solve. ###. The end. Just like Jody, you never know what magical secrets you might uncover when you explore the world around you. What hidden treasures will you find? Chapter 5. ###. Title: Jody and the Enchanted Library. One drizzly afternoon, Jody found herself looking for a new adventure. The rain pattered softly on her window, making everything outside look misty and magical. As she was tidying up her room, she came across an old, leather-bound book. Jody didn't remember seeing it before. Curious, she opened it and found a note tucked inside the cover. The note read, and quote, "To the curious explorer, seek out the Enchanted Library. Your next adventure awaits. Follow the silver trail to uncover its wonders." Unquote. Jody's eyes sparkled with excitement. She had heard stories about a mysterious enchanted library that held books filled with magical stories and endless knowledge. Without wasting a moment, Jody grabbed her raincoat and umbrella. Even on a rainy day, she knew she could rely on Wizzy, her magical red motorbike. She hopped on, and they set off to find the Enchanted Library. Jody and Wizzy followed the map's directions, which led them through the misty streets of their small town. They passed familiar landmarks, like the town hall and the sweet shop, but then turned onto a narrow, cobblestone lane that Jody had never noticed before. The lane was lined with tall, silvery trees that seemed to glow in the dim light. This must be the Silver Trail mentioned in the note. As they rode along the Silver Trail, the rain seemed to lighten, and a soft, magical mist enveloped them. At the end of the lane, they reached a grand building with tall, arched windows and a golden door. Above the door, a sign read, "Enchanted Library." Jody felt a flutter of excitement in her chest. She parked Wizzy and approached the door. It opened with a gentle creak, revealing a warm, welcoming room filled with rows upon rows of bookshelves. The air smelled of old books and a hint of lavender. At the center of the library stood a large, friendly-looking cat with deep green eyes. "Welcome, Jody," the cat said in a soft voice, making Jody jump slightly. "I am Tabitha, the guardian of the Enchanted Library." Jody blinked in surprise. A talking cat. This adventure was already full of surprises. And quote, "Hello, Tabitha. It's nice to meet you. I've never seen a library like this before." And quote. Tabitha smiled, her whiskers twitching. And quote. "This library is special. It holds books from all over the world, filled with magic, stories, and secrets. And each book has a way of coming to life." And quote. Intrigued, Jody wandered down the aisles, looking at the titles. There were books about faraway lands, magical creatures, and heroic adventures. One book, in particular, caught her eye. It was titled Asterisk and quote, "The Book of Wishes." And quote. Jody carefully pulled the book from the shelf and opened it. Inside, she found a golden quill and a single blank page. And quote. "What do I do with this?" And quote. She asked, turning to Tabitha. Tabitha padded over and sat down gracefully. And quote. "This is a special book," and quote. She explained. And quote. "Write a wish on the page with the quill, and it will come true, but only if it's a selfless wish." And quote. Jody thought for a moment. She could wish for anything, but what would be the kindest thing to wish for? Then, she remembered her friend Lucy, who loved reading but couldn't always find new books. Jody smiled and wrote carefully on the page. Asterisk and quote. "I wish for a box of books for my friend Lucy, filled with stories that will make her smile." And quote. As soon as she finished writing, the words glowed brightly and disappeared into the page. The book closed with a soft thud, and a beautiful, ornate box appeared beside Jody. She opened it and saw it was filled with colorful books, each with a different adventure inside. Tabitha purred approvingly. And quote. "A lovely wish, Jody. The magic of the enchanted library is always strongest when it brings joy to others." And quote. Jody beamed. She couldn't wait to see Lucy's face when she gave her the books. But before she could leave, Tabitha padded over to a small, cozy reading nook. And quote. "Before you go, Jody, there's one more thing. Every visitor gets to choose one special book to take home, as a reminder of the magic they experienced here." And quote. Jody looked around, feeling overwhelmed by the endless possibilities. Finally, she picked a small, green book titled Asterisk and quote. "Adventures Await." And quote. Asterisk. It seemed like the perfect reminder of all the adventures she had and those yet to come. Jody thanked Tabitha for the magical experience and promised to return. She carefully placed the box of books for Lucy and her special book in Wizzy's basket. As she left the library, the golden door closed behind her with a soft click, and the silver trail seemed to glow a little brighter. Riding home, Jody felt the warmth of the magical experience. When she reached Lucy's house, she rang the doorbell and handed her the box of books. Lucy's eyes lit up with joy, and she hugged Jody tightly. And quote. "Thank you, Jody. These are wonderful." And quote. Jody smiled, feeling the magic of the enchanted library still in her heart. She waved goodbye and rode home, thinking about the book she had chosen and all the new adventures it promised. As she parked Wizzy and walked into her house, Jody knew she had discovered a truly magical place. She couldn't wait to tell her parents and plan her next visit to the enchanted library. ###. ###. The end. Like Jody. Remember that books are windows to new worlds and adventures. What magical story will you read next?